Breaking. King Charles has just done something no British monarch has attempted in 381 years. He entered Parliament without prior notice, looked directly at Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and spoke 6 words that brought the entire chamber to a standstill. Parliament exists because the Crown allows it. What led to this extraordinary moment? 2 days earlier, Starmer stood in the House of Commons and declared, "The monarchy must modernize or risk becoming irrelevant. We cannot let outdated traditions obstruct progress." Within hours, Buckingham Palace released a 34-word statement that sent shockwaves through Westminster, announcing that the king would address Parliament personally, without a pre-approved script from Downing Street. At 2:15 p.m. yesterday, Charles entered the chamber. No smile, no wave. He walked straight to the dispatch box as every MP stood frozen. Insiders describe Starmer's face as drained of color, his hands gripping the front bench so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Prime Minister," Charles began, his tone calm but firm, "you have questioned whether the crown serves a purpose in modern Britain." The king paused. The silence stretched unbearably. "Allow me to remind this house of something fundamental." He withdrew a leather folder containing royal records dating back to 1688, documents outlining every instance Parliament had overstepped its authority. Each time politicians had forgotten that Britain's stability depends on balance, not on one branch overpowering another. He placed the folder down with a sharp thud that echoed through the chamber like a gavel. "I am not here to threaten," he said. "I am here to remind you of history. And history, Prime Minister, is never kind to those who dismantle what they do not comprehend." Conservative MPs nodded in agreement. Labour backbenchers stared at the floor. Even Jeremy Corbyn, once a vocal advocate for abolishing the monarchy, sat motionless, arms folded, eyes fixed ahead. Speaker Lindsay Hoyle later told colleagues it was the most extraordinary moment he had witnessed in 5 years of presiding over Parliament. But what makes this crisis more than mere political theater is the reality facing millions of Britons. While Starmer pushes forward with radical constitutional reforms, many across the country are struggling with impossible choices. Dorothy Williams, 72, a retired NHS nurse from Wakefield, hasn't turned on her heating for 3 weeks despite freezing temperatures. "I worked 40 years in the NHS," she said, tears rolling down her face. "Now I wear 3 jumpers indoors because Labour cut my winter fuel allowance." She is far from alone. Around 2.3 million pensioners face the same decision this winter, to heat or to eat. Meanwhile, Starmer's government has just allocated $8 million for diversity consultancy schemes, including $400,000 for inclusive pronoun training, while elderly Britons endure the cold. Michael Patterson, a 67-year-old Falklands War veteran decorated with 2 medals for bravery, was found sleeping in a Manchester doorway last Tuesday night. He served his country with honor. Now he sleeps on cardboard. 4 Labour MPs from traditional heartland constituencies have demanded the immediate reinstatement of the winter fuel payment. The moral contrast is so stark that divisions are emerging even within Starmer's own party. Then, Charles did something that broke 70 years of royal precedent. He did not leave after his address. At 2:34 p.m., he took a seat in the gallery usually reserved for visiting dignitaries, choosing to stay and watch the debate unfold. Every word spoken would now be under the king's direct observation. Palace insiders disclosed that this decision was made personally by Charles, against the advice of all senior aides. "Your Majesty," one courtier reportedly warned during an emergency meeting, "this breaches every rule of constitutional monarchy. You'll be accused of political interference." Charles's reply was brief. "Perhaps some rules must be broken when the nation's future is at stake." Private Secretary Sir Clive Alderton reportedly turned pale. For Starmer, the optics were disastrous. Every defense of policy would now be delivered under the monarch's gaze, like a defendant standing before a judge. His planned speech defending modernization was abandoned, replaced by a fumbling response that convinced nobody. The markets reacted in panic. Within 90 minutes, the pound sterling fell 2.3% against the dollar, the sharpest drop since Liz Truss's budget disaster. $4.7 billion was wiped from the FTSE 100 in a single afternoon. One senior Barclays trader said it was no longer about economics. It was about whether Britain even has a functioning government. The political fractures appeared fast. By 4 p.m., 3 Labour MPs had publicly broken ranks. Lisa Andy, ordinarily a loyal Starmer ally, tweeted 7 words, "The Prime Minister has gone too far." Within hours, it had 340,000 likes and 89,000 shares. Jess Phillips followed 30 minutes later. I entered politics to serve Britain, not to wage war against our institutions. Her post had received 670,000 likes by midnight. International reactions poured in. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney praised constitutional monarchy as the foundation of Commonwealth stability. Australia's opposition called Starmer's approach reckless and dangerous. Even President Trump weighed in, King Charles showing real leadership. Starmer looks weak. Britain deserves better. Social media erupted. #sign defend the king trended globally for 16 hours, reaching 4.8 million tweets. Starmer out-hit 2.8 million by midnight. Protests sprang up across Manchester, Birmingham, Newcastle, and Leeds. In Liverpool, traditionally a Labour stronghold, more than 5,000 protesters gathered outside City Hall chanting, "God save the King." Starmer out. London demonstrations outside Downing Street reached 12,000 people by 9 p.m. Inside number 10, the atmosphere turned toxic. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner allegedly stormed out of an emergency cabinet meeting after a blazing row with Starmer. "You've destroyed us!" she reportedly screamed before slamming the door so hard the paintings rattled. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson was overheard telling colleagues, "We can't survive this. He's made us look like enemies of Britain itself." Health Secretary Wes Streeting refused to appear on BBC Question Time, a show he never misses. WhatsApp groups with names like Operation Reset are plotting Starmer's removal. Messages leaked to the Sunday Times reveal cabinet members privately discussing a potential vote of no confidence as early as next Tuesday. One message from a senior minister read, "Tuesday, 3 p.m. We move then. Are you in?" 23 MPs responded with thumbs-up emojis. Even Starmer's closest advisor, Sue Gray, appeared visibly unsettled during crisis meetings. One insider described her as mentally checked out, already preparing her exit strategy. But here's the revelation that could destroy Starmer's career. Leaked cabinet office papers indicate his team was aware of King Charles's concerns weeks in advance. According to documents dated 3 October, palace officials issued formal warnings that continued attacks on the monarchy could trigger a constitutional intervention. The letter reportedly highlighted 3 specific concerns: removing royal assent from parliamentary bills, limiting the monarch's role in appointing bishops, and reducing the monarchy to a purely ceremonial position with no constitutional authority. If these documents are genuine, Starmer knowingly provoked this crisis, fully aware of the potential consequences. Either he believed he could win a confrontation with the king, a catastrophic misjudgment, or he engineered the crisis to divert attention from Labour's worsening economic record. Inflation remains at 4.1% despite promises to reduce it. NHS waiting lists have climbed to 7.8 million, and small businesses are shutting down at the fastest rate since 2009. Prime Minister caught gambling with constitutional stability for political gain would be finished the moment the public grasped the scale of what he'd done. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is capitalizing on the turmoil with striking effectiveness. At 6:15 p.m. yesterday, he delivered a speech outside Parliament that has already been viewed 4.2 million times on YouTube. Some politicians believe Britain's traditions are outdated relics to be discarded, Farage declared as the crowd pressed closer. But we believe those traditions are the very foundation of who we are as a nation. The audience erupted in applause lasting 47 seconds. While Labour attacks the Crown, Reform UK defends it. While Labour divides Britain, we unite it. Reform UK's membership applications surged so dramatically yesterday that their website crashed 3 times under the pressure. Party headquarters has reported 47,000 new membership applications in just 12 hours, with small donors flooding party funds through contributions averaging $23 each. Former Labour voters are switching allegiance in numbers that would have seemed unthinkable only weeks ago. The latest polling paints a grim picture for Labour. A Savanta Comres survey released this morning places the party at just 24%, its lowest level since 2019. The Conservatives remain at 31%, while Reform UK has surged to 27%, up from 18% a fortnight ago. For the first time in British political history, Reform is within reach of becoming His Majesty's official opposition. Across constituencies in the Midlands and the North, Reform is now polling first, Hartlepool at 34%, Stoke-on-Trent at 31%, and in Rotherham, a Labour stronghold since 1933, the party trails by just 3 points. Farage isn't only winning the argument, he's winning the country. The next 72 hours will be crucial. Parliament reconvenes on Monday morning at 9:30 a.m. for an emergency debate. Several Labour MPs are expected to publicly call for Starmer's resignation, with sources suggesting at least 7 have already prepared departure speeches. The Treasury now faces a possible credit rating downgrade if market turmoil continues. Moody's has placed the UK on negative watch, citing growing political instability. International investors are openly questioning Britain's reliability for the first time in decades. The question is no longer whether Starmer can survive politically, it's whether Labour can survive him. Britain is witnessing its constitutional order tested as never before in modern history. At the center stands Keir Starmer, increasingly isolated, increasingly desperate, and visibly diminished. His own MPs avoid him in the corridors. His cabinet conspires against him in private message groups. And above it all, the king watches silently, composed, patient, knowing that time is on his side. So here's what we want to know. Does Starmer step down before he's forced out? Or does Labour endure weeks of bitter internal warfare? Did King Charles just preserve British democracy by reminding Parliament of its limits? Or has he sparked a constitutional crisis that could threaten the monarchy itself? Share your thoughts below. We're reading everyone, because this conversation matters. And if this breakdown helped you grasp what's truly unfolding at Westminster, share it with someone who deserves to know the facts. The mainstream media may be presenting this story in 10 different ways, but you've just heard the complete picture. Make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow we'll be analyzing the leaked Cabinet Office documents that prove Starmer knew this was coming. You won't believe what they uncover about the secret meetings between Downing Street and Buckingham Palace. This story is far from finished, and the next chapter could change Britain forever. You'll want to be here when it happens.